So you tell me, you ready? Okay. So Veronica, I have some discussion topics for us to walk through. All right.
All right. Sir.
And so there's a little bit of a pre-framing that I want to kind of do to set the tone.
All right.
And I'm going to ask you or talk about a topic, but then ask you to take us first to another topic to pre-frame so that we can deliver
All right.
some education, if you will, to myself and the viewing audience.
All right. Yeah.
Right? So I'd like you to teach us and the viewing audience some aspects of the metaphysical world that sometimes doesn't get a lot of attention.
All
And it's
right.
something that's fascinating to me that I thought maybe we would, learn more about and share today. And it seems like we focus a great deal on, as humans, death or our passing or the croaking moment, as it's referred to in some circles. But we're so worried about the loss of self and loved ones and what happens to us. And as you put it, you're just donning a costume and it's from dust, and when it wears out,
You get another one.
you can get another one if you so choose, right?
Yes, indeed.
So we spend a lot of time worrying about ourselves dying when there's, in this whole energetic cycle, a much more magnificent, or just as magnificent portion, which is what goes on after you're all done passing and getting ready to come back, pre-life discussions, and how do you get ready for the next life. So
Yes.
today, from a high-level basis, I'd like you to teach us about the other parts of this energetic cycle, and that aspect that I'd like to talk about today is pre-life agreements. What happens in pre-life agreements? And we want to know what that means, and more specifically, we're interested in this from, a baby soul perspective and a more advanced soul perspective. And so, before we get started on, telling her and teaching us about that, and getting that discussion, I'd like you to start from first giving us a very high-level pre-frame on, the soul itself, or the origins of the soul. In other words, we're talking about souls that go through various, I mentioned baby souls and then advanced souls, but can we talk a little bit first about where the souls come from, why they go through these experiences and pass and do all the things they do, so that we can get some more enlightenment on that before we talk about pre-life agreements. So a little bit of frame up of the nature of things, the order of things, and how they evolve. Does it make sense?
Well, there are entities that are energies. Some are source, some are products of source, that decide that they want to have an experience that is condensed, which was what the physical offers. It offers a very condensed, touchy-feely type of participation that is not as available in the nonlinear.
The denseness that you refer to sometimes.
Yes. And we'd say that when you have a young soul, now it varies from soul age. When you have a soul who was first cast, and they are considered a baby soul, they are having their first experience in the linear, they may completely forget where they came from, because they are so immersed in this dense experience that they find it difficult to just walk through that experience, let alone remember anything else they've decided upon coming in. We'd say that as the soul has experience in the linear, it helps advance it soul age-wise, but it also gives them a perspective after they've had one life, so to speak. Then when they come back into the second one, they have an experience where they can say, well, I like that part, I didn't like that part. Or I felt like I really got something out of that, but I didn't get anything out of that. So then the lives start to become a little bit more picture perfect. You start to be a little bit more careful what you create, because you want to have an experience where you say, I really got a lot out of it, instead of, I don't want to have this. It takes maybe several hundred lives sometimes to get out of the...
Several hundred?
It can take several hundred lives to get out of a baby soul stage. All depends upon the energy and about how clear they are with their experience.
So every time a soul has an experience and then passes and goes back to non-physical.
Yes.
There's a review.
There
Of
is a
some
moment,
sort.
there's a contemplative moment where you meet with the guides, you review the life, you decide what worked, what didn't work, what experiences that you will not create ever again, and what experiences you say, you know, that brought me a lot of growth, I will do that again. And
Okay.
then you move on to deciding what the next life will be about, what aspects of it you wish to look at further. It gets much more precise as you move through it. When you first start out, it's sort of a grand, okay, I'm just getting in, I'm trying it.
Well, this puts a very grand twist on the normalities of the educations that we have at this point in time, that it's a one life pass.
No, it isn't. How unfortunate that would be.
So thousands of lives, maybe just to advance out of the baby soul stage.
We'd say hundreds, we didn't say thousands, we say hundreds.
Okay.
It could take that long for some, because they might find themselves in a secular moment where they keep creating the same thing over and over and find it difficult to maneuver or advance out of it.
So is that when a soul doesn't listen to its guides and
That's
moves back
when a
into physical
soul doesn't
quickly?
listen to itself,
Ah,
or the pre-plans that it has made.
okay.
Doesn't follow the path, it sort of says, well, I'm going to go do this instead.
Interesting. So after a baby soul experiences hundreds of lives
And they
in,
move into a younger soul status.
so a level, for my understanding, another
Another
Notch.
notch up, yes.
a notch up the chain, so to
Yes,
speak.
Yes.
And so when I've moved, or when an energy is evolved up out of the baby soul status, and they get ready to come back into physical again, what sort of things happen in terms of, what sort of things can happen in terms of pre-life arrangements or agreements? What one might do?
As one becomes more familiar with the process and more comfortable with the process, then you can start saying, well, you know, I've had these experiences, and this part of it didn't seem to go well, and I had these experiences, and I feel like I learned a lot from that. So when you start to evolve and advance as a soul, you start thinking about what you're going to do, not just jumping into it like you would as a baby soul, say, oh, I'm going to incarnate. Or now, as a young soul, you're saying, well, if I'm going to incarnate, exactly what am I going to do? What is there, you know, I might decide to think about it first, or have a plan of action moving into it. When you move into a more mature level, you start to minutially plan what you're going to do. And when you're at an old soul level, it's like you're going over all the past experiences, and your plan is, you're living the plan. You are vibrating at the plan.
And vibrations are probably one of the key words or terms here.
Yes.
Because the baby soul is vibrating,
At a certain level.
yes. And then as they evolve or go to the next notch up, as you so elegantly put it, that vibration rate changes.
Yes.
And what happens that the vibration rate changes? What does the energy do, or the soul do, us, because we're for us in this conversation, I kind of put it to myself in personal terms. So each time I come back, it's not the same individual, but different, same energy, different costume, right?
Different costume or different perception of thought.
Ah,
You're thinking more advanced. You're not
okay.
thinking at the kindergarten level anymore.
All right.
Perhaps you're thinking at the 8th grade level, which is you still have a fondness and understanding for that kindergarten level, but the questions you would ask in the 8th grade are way different than the questions you would ask in kindergarten.
Or when I'm in a master's program,
Or you're
as an old
going
soul.
for your PhD,
Right.
and you still appreciate, you still remember being in kindergarten, you still remember all those experiences, and if you sit and reflect, you say, oh, that happened, that was that teacher. Those
Won't
are the
do that
kids
again.
Yes, I learned really quickly that mom didn't like that.
Right.
You still have an appreciation, you don't lose it, but you're now working on your PhD. And all those experiences stay with you. Every grade you go through, and we're just making this very linear, you have memories, experiences, and thoughts that were generated from those experiences, so that it puts you in the PhD program. And if you had not had those experiences in the way you have them, you might not be where you're at right now in the linear.
Okay.